Hey, what's up, Steelers Nation? I'm Tyler Feldman. The Steelers quiet at the deadline. Why that's good news for the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And I'm Wayne Gandy, former offensive tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm looking forward for the Steeler fans to take over SoFi.
And I'm Ben Bobick. We said during this 3-game stretch, the Steelers needed to get one. They got one. Now let's go and get two. The Steelers Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network starts now.
Wave those terrible towels. It's the Steelers Squad. Everything Pittsburgh Steelers every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Steel City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the steel curtain to the next generation, the Steelers Squad Show starts now.
Yes, it does. This is the Steelers Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Tonight's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Again, I'm your host, Tyler Feldman. Happy to be joined by 15-year NFL vet and former Pittsburgh Steeler, Wayne Gandy, in the middle. Wayne, good sir, how are you?
I'm good. I'm in the middle. It's like a reverse Oreo going on right here.
Hey, you throw any type of Oreo on my face, I'm dunking that in some chocolate milk or 2%, whatever is available. I'm letting that soak and simmer for a little, and then I'm biting in. So that sounds good to me. Speaking of treats, Ben Bobick on the pod here tonight as well. Pittsburgh native, just like myself. And hey, Ben, the Steelers, big win over the Colts, and now they try to make it twice as nice on the road Sunday Night Football against the Chargers this week.
Absolutely, and a good win as well. Now that it's been a couple of days, you sort of reflect on it all. You come down off the high of, wow, they actually pulled this off. It was an all-around solid victory for the Steelers on Sunday. They looked great. I mean, I do think the score was a little bit closer than I think the game actually was. They did a great job of forcing turnovers and taking care of business. And I think we talked about this before we got into this big gauntlet of games when it comes to these three. That you think about the Packers and now the Colts and now the Chargers. Was, hey, listen, if this is a really good team, if this is a legitimate team or a team that's going to compete, for a playoff spot and in the playoffs, they got to beat good teams, and that's what they did on Sunday. So you take that in stride and see if they could keep it up again on this Sunday with the against the LA Chargers.
Yeah, on tonight's show, we're talking about the Steelers being quiet pretty much at the trade deadline, what that means for the organization and the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, how does this Pittsburgh defense that forced 6 turnovers against the Colts, how do they rebound in a bigger fashion against another good offense with Justin Herbert in that playoff caliber Chargers squad? And then, hey, momentum in Pittsburgh's favor? It seems like it. And then we'll talk about keys and have our way too early predictions. Wayne, I want to get your thoughts initially, though, here on the trade deadline. The Steelers packing in Duggar in the secondary, but that was it. Quiet. So what do you think, through your lens, this means for the Steelers and what they're trying to do?
Well, to me, it's typical Pittsburgh Steeler organization. I've never really known them, once the season start, to grab anything outside of a need. They're not a big want kind of trade team. They're going to go out just like with Duggar. It was based on Deshaun Elliott was injured, and they needed to find someone to replace him. So I didn't have big aspirations for them to make some stellar move. That's just not their protocol. That hasn't been Coach Tomlin's protocol. And sometimes, unless the couple of guys that went big were fire sailed from a team that has figured we don't want to carry those salaries anymore. And I don't think it was anything against Sauce Gardner and Quentin Williams as far as their talent. It was just, these are huge contracts. If we're going to rebuild this team, we got to get those kind of players out based on what kind of salary cap they're eating up. So, but with the Steelers, I don't think there was a guy out there that any of us can sit there. They can't bring those guys in. They don't have the room, to trade for those guys. So who do you grab? We keep talking about a second receiver, and that, after that fumble by Roman Wilson in the game the other night, I was thinking, man, maybe they will go get somebody because, I think they are very schematically where they want to be as far as their personnel. They've settled in that this is the team, how they're going to win, especially on the offensive side. Whether you like it or not, it's not going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not going to be the Colts. It's going to be this 4 tight end. Try to find someone that gets hot in the receiving core. And think about this too, when you talk about the Steelers. The Packers, we're talking about this gauntlet. Well, for half of that game, the Steelers control. They did go into that first half winning. And you thought that they could just kind of keep to that. And they just got outplayed in that second. And then they go out and they beat the Colts. So you got to have some confidence that you're seeing a little more than you want to give them credit for. You know, they're 5-3. And I think they have a good chance. Yes, the Chargers are favored, but you can see cracks in how this Steeler team can come up with a win on Sunday night.
And let's make no mistake, going into this season when the Steelers added Aaron Rodgers, maybe you thought that they were trying to go for that Super Bowl. And I'm not saying they're not trying. The players are definitely capable of getting there. Now, will they get there? I don't think so this year, but looking at what the Steelers didn't do at the deadline, they didn't give up all that draft capital for something that really wouldn't shake the boat that much and push them forward through the ocean. And so by staying put, they're saying, look, we've got to get that quarterback. We've got to get those pieces in the draft. And for right now, this is what the team is, and they are capable of a lot, but there was nothing worth giving up that much to bring in for this season. And that's how I see things, Ben. How do you see it?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely nailed it, man. You look at the two big, and we're talking about receivers specifically. You look at what the Jaguars traded for Jacoby Myers was a 4th-round draft pick and a 6th-round draft pick. That's some serious draft capital there for a guy that, hey, might help out Jacksonville, but is he really going to help out this Pittsburgh Steelers team? And then you look at Rashid Shaheed as well for Seattle, 4th-round pick and a 5th-round pick. Is it really worth it for a guy to come in on a moving train, to borrow a Mike Tomlinism here, and for a team that's still kind of gathering their belongings when it comes to the offense, still gelling, if you will? But you know who they do bring in? They bring in a guy that has rapport with Aaron Rodgers and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Obviously signed to the practice squad. He's going to work his way up, but that's a guy that already has chemistry with the quarterback that you have. And it's a no risk move, or no risk really, an all reward move there. You bring him on, you sign him to the practice squad. You don't have to trade anything for him. That's what you do. You bring a guy that already has that chemistry. I just don't think it's worth trading away that draft capital, because and Wayne touched on it too when it comes to schematically what they want to do on offense. The Steelers don't go out there in a wide receiver heavy set on offense, man. It is quite clear what they like to do, and that's bring all the tight ends in. And so when you got 2-3 tight ends on a play, often there's not many receivers on the field, and you're going to have DK Metcalf on the field as much as possible. So that's one receiver. So a lot of the times there's only room for one, maybe one more receiver. Calvin Austin has been coming along decently well. And then also you think about Roman Wilson, obviously he had that tough learning experience. Fortunately, what's like that didn't really affect the game overall too much when you make a mistake like that. It wasn't a Caleb Johnson mistake where you're able to overcome and learn from it for Roman Wilson, where it's not life or death there. But you need to have him get some game experience. You still don't really know what you have in that guy. He missed all of last season. He's had a couple decent moments here this year, but you still got to see what you got in him. So I just don't think it's worth spending the draft capital to bring a guy in on a moving train that you're really not going to see on the field too often with how the Steelers like to play on offense.
Wayne, do you agree that the Steelers and Omar Khan did the right thing by basically not doing anything?
Yeah, I think they settled on this team for a particular reason. And it's just it's not a flashy team. And you got a lot of big personalities. We're talking about halfway through the season. You're going to try to, we don't have this confidence that in Coach Tomlin. He's handling these guys, just every day putting a nail in the wood, trying to hold these guys together. You don't want to bring in too much of another personality, especially offensively. Aaron Rodgers, to me, has done a very professional kind of management leadership to this team. Even a couple of times that television tries to make it seem like he's not supposed to be yelling. And it's like, no, he's supposed to be emphasizing to the receiver or the offensive line. That is what he's there to do. But you don't want to mess up too much of that chemistry and try to add some personality and not able to control it and get it to produce, because you need something to blend in now. You're leading the division. Those teams, a lot of those players were going to people who are trying to get where you already are. So I thought staying pat, and as Ben said with Scantling, that's a nice piece because he's already worked with Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't come in thinking I need the ball. He has to come in with the attitude of just team player. He doesn't have a pitch count or where he can go demand anything. He just gets to get on the field if he gets that opportunity at some point and play football.
Hey, Wayne, I also want to go back to you, and not to shift gears entirely here in this first quarter of tonight's show, but Alex Highsmith, AFC Defensive Player of the Week. So last week this time you were saying, hey, where is he? He heard you, Wayne. When Wayne Gandy speaks, the players listen, and that's what Alex Highsmith did, and deservedly so. And when you look at guys like that, if Alex Highsmith can stay healthy on the defensive side of the ball, then you start to get that 1-2 punch back in that middle of this Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Yeah, we have all collectively talked about whatever this team is going to do, the further it's going to go is based on the defense. That's really what it is. It's an offense that has enough personnel that it, one or two times, as me and Ben, you also, Tyler, talk about with Aaron Rodgers. That's why you go get those guys. And I always tell people, when you go, you look at teams that grab those older quarterbacks, they usually already have a set defense. So what I'm going to do with you, Peyton Manning, is I'm going to give you the short field in Denver. You're not going to have to do much, but make that one Omaha call and get us in the right call, even down in Tampa with Tom Brady. They didn't give enough credit to me, to the defense, that they could go out and defensively dominate a game. And I feel like the Steelers, I'm like you, I don't necessarily see Super Bowl. Super Bowl would probably be a function that you catch a couple of teams without their key guy, whoever that guy might be. But I do see a team that you get them in the playoffs and people have to worry about Aaron Rodgers for a week. That doesn't mean they can't be beat. It just means that they do have a guy that's capable if it's in a situation or if it's a minute and 30 seconds left on the clock. For some reason, he's blessed with being able to make the play down the field.
Ben Highsmith said after winning AFC Defensive Player of the Week, we simplified the menu, but we also executed really well. I think that's why we did well. Wherever we can execute what's called, that's great for us. And so maybe simplification defensively is the way that this Pittsburgh Steelers defense can continue to improve and wreak some havoc for the opposition. Maybe we'll see that again this week against the Chargers with Jalen Ramsey even switching there, what he did last week as well.
Yeah, less thinking, more doing. I think that's what it was when we chatted last week. It just felt like they were overthinking things and trying to play a little too much, trying to be the hero a little bit too much. And I'll say it again. I'll go back to the Michael Scott Kiss method. Keep it simple, stupid. And clearly that's what works. I mean, it just allows them to go out there, play free, and play. And sometimes simple is key. Less is more. You hear all these different things, and I think for the Steelers and this defense, that's the case. I mean, they have so much talent on the defensive side of the ball. We all know that, and you know what? There's a lot of money to go around the defensive side of the ball. Everyone will remind you of that too, but they're for a reason. I mean, and we saw a big reason why that they dispersed that cash flow they do this past Sunday. And absolutely, if those, I mean, I don't know if they're going to play exactly like that every week. Obviously, it's tough to force 6 turnovers, every week, but at least, you seeing guys play with more confidence like Alex Highsmith, Peyton Wilson, who is, before the season was talking a lot of heat and really hasn't been living up to it until he did on Sunday. And if he could play with that effort, people feed off each other like that. So it's great to see him have a good game. And I know Keanu Benton was struggling early on in the season. He had a solid effort on Sunday as well. So it's just keeping that swag about them, keeping the mojo and keeping it simple, I think is certainly key. But just keep that edge. I mean, I know we mentioned it last Wednesday, and I think that we all could agree that's what that defense was missing was that edge, playing with that edge, that Steelers edge, if you will. knowing who they are. And they're going to have to do it on Sunday because it's re-racked to another great young quarterback, one that they did beat last year, one that they were able to get a victory over at Acrisure Stadium, obviously early in the season. Justin Fields actually was one of his better, if not his best game as a Pittsburgh Steeler against the Los Angeles Chargers last year. But they have that recipe what to do, and so it's a different Chargers team this year. But still, you have to go out there and do it. But absolutely, the defense just that's a good building block, a good game to build off of, and they need to keep it up.
Ben, you say edge, I say swagger, and the Steelers got their swagger back last week against the Colts thanks to Jalen Ramsey, a meeting he had Saturday night. We'll talk about that and how that maybe will continue to lift the spirit and the performance of the Steelers defense Sunday night against the Chargers. That's next right here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Still to come, we've got an ad read courtesy of FanDuel.com. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, back here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Second quarter with Wayne Gandy, Ben Bobick. I'm Tyler Feldman. So glad you're with us here on this Wednesday night previewing the Pittsburgh Steelers matchup at the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday Night Football. Hey, another primetime situation for the Steelers. Maybe it goes better this time around. We were talking about the defense at the end of that first quarter. Jalen Ramsey reportedly had a meeting with the defense Saturday night going into Sunday's game against the Colts. And Joey Porter Jr. said about that meeting, about what Jalen Ramsey was doing, quote, he was really talking about bringing that swagger back that is the steel curtain defense. And understandably so. I've been pretty critical of the defense. It hasn't been good. But we saw with Dick LeBeau in attendance last week at Acrisure Stadium, we saw the defense force 6 turnovers and hold a really good Colts offense to just 20 points. Wayne, how do you carry that over, understanding that, look, maybe the scheme will need to change against a different offense with Justin Herbert, but how do you still produce at that same level on a consistent basis? Can we see that for a second straight week?
I believe we can, because the challenge is there. Justin Herbert, you got another, you don't have a team where you can kind of brush off and feel like the quarterback situation, no knock against someone like a Justin Fields, but you're not going from a high-powered Colts offense to an offense that won't embarrass you. So you have to be back on your game once again. And I imagine Jalen Ramsey, and we kind of talked about it even before the game, it was going to be one of those games where the veterans had to stand up, take ownership, admit that they haven't been playing at their level. We talk about, and as I told you, it takes really a full year to be in the Steeler organization to kind of let it imprint of how you're supposed to play football in the Steelers. It's a grimy, nasty attitude. We're going to get the last lick. Forget the scoreboard. We're going to bully you. And the new pieces that we brought in have to get up to speed to that. And Jalen Ramsey is one of those pieces that it's not about the places you've been, Miami, LA with the Rams, Jacksonville. It's not the one piece, it's the whole. When you talk, and you guys are lifelong Steeler fans, the defense has always been talked about as the Steeler defense. And then you get around to the particular players. But it's always about the defense as a whole before it's about the particular pieces. And that's what I felt like we saw last week, that all 3 levels of the defense felt like they had to do something to affect the game. The D-line, we saw the sacks. We saw the tip balls, the linebackers coming off the edge, getting the interception. Joey Porter Jr. late in the game. We saw Ramsey come up with the big hit. Really, Darius Slate still trying to, and some of that is his age. Sometimes you got your expectations, we're looking for the 27-year-old Darius Slate and forgetting 34 is old for a corner. Only the special ones, and some of those, like even Jalen Ramsey, like, hey, just put me at free safety because I can't keep running with these guys. But Darius can play a little more if Highsmith and Watt get there sooner. Then you can fit him in and he can play, but that doesn't mean he's going to accept and embrace the Steeler attitude. And I think, to me, that's what that game was about. And that's why I even mentioned after the game on Sunday, especially your alumni weekend, you got all the greats. You start to get it then. And it's one of those, where you just have to admit when you leave there's 4 or 5 teams that bring back that college feel. That is more, and in college, you have a more connected spirit, that everything is a little more connected. That's how the Steeler organization, and that's how I felt like they played last week, in a more connected, team-oriented mindset, and not as 5 gladiators in the secondary, but as one secondary.
Derek Harmon this week said, we've got to stop the run because that passing game for the Chargers, Herbert, he's almost at 2,400 passing yards so far through 9 games, 18 touchdown passes. He can run too, more than 300 rushing yards so far this season. So, Ben, what are some keys to the Steelers defense? Who are you looking at? Do we see TJ Watt step up again? The line, Cam Hayward, can he anchor things? How does a Steelers team on the road, Wayne, you said this to open the show, but I expect a lot of terrible towels twirling Sunday in Los Angeles. How does this defense make it happen against Justin Herbert in a dynamic offense?
Stop the run. You stop the run. You saw what it did for you on Sunday against the NFL's best running back, and you saw what it did against one of the worst rushing teams in the league. That you let Chase Brown run all over him in Cincinnati. You saw what happened. And then that's what got Cincinnati's offense going, and that's why that's the NFL for you there, man. It's you have to show up every single week because you play a team like Cincinnati who has they should have no problem stopping the run there. Cincinnati can't run the ball, and then Chase Brown has his best game of the season, and then boom, it lines up against Indianapolis. Oh man, Jonathan Taylor's gonna have a day on that Steelers defense that can't stop the run, and then they stop him for 45 yards. But it's no secret that's what it has to come down to. You have to stop the run, and you look on it from Los Angeles' point of view. Their running back room is slim. They've had a lot of injuries. Our old friend Najee Harris is out for the year. He was supposed to be a big player for them, and a few other guys. So they're battered, but that doesn't mean they're out because you see guys step up all the time in these situations. We saw it with the Steelers when Jaylen Warren was a late scratch in Dublin, and Kenneth Gainwell comes up and has a event. And it was one of our better rushing games of the season. So these guys step up at all costs. And so you have to stop the run. If you stop the run, that's where you can pin your ears back and do something similar to what you did last week. Now, I do think Justin Herbert's a better quarterback than Daniel Jones when it comes to the passing game. But I think he has a really solid amount of weapons there in Los Angeles, man. They are loaded. Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnson. I mean, they're a really good team when it comes to their receiving core. So it's going to be difficult, but I think it starts with stopping the run and getting after the quarterback. And you might have a chance to do that because I know the Chargers' offensive line has struggled. They had to go and get some help from their offensive line in the trade deadline. So and as we know from our good friend Wayne, it takes a little bit to gel. It's one thing to go put a patchwork on your tire there and keep it moving, but it has to gel, it has to feel out the road. And so they have to, while they got some help for their offensive line, it's going to take maybe a little bit for that offensive line to gel together, and hopefully the Steelers could take advantage of it on Sunday. But they have to stop the run and make Justin Herbert uncomfortable. But like you mentioned, Tyler, man, he can move it too. So it's going to be a difficult task.
We'll get to the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line and hear what Wayne thinks about their growth over the past few weeks. later on in the show. But right now, Wayne, I am curious defensively for the Steelers, who's a guy you're looking at to really step up? Last week you said Alex Highsmith needed to elevate his game, and look what he did. So who's the next guy up here for the Steelers defensively this week?
Well, that Harmon Keanu Benton combination that plays along with Cam Hayward, because you can almost chalk up what he's going to give you. He's one of the best thing I try to find in any athlete is consistency. I think people sometimes lose that part. Can you consistently affect the game? And he's one of those guys, some kind of way, he makes something happen each game. So on that other side, and as Ben alluded to, stopping the run, and the thing that happened in Cincinnati is I need you to be able to stop the run with the front seven. So I don't have to commit. When you're talking about Justin Herbert and stopping Keenan Allen and Lob McConkey and all those guys, I need to be able to have confidence that I'm going to be able to shut this run game down with my front seven, which means defensive line play has to be at a premium. And so that's what I'm looking for inside, taking advantage. The two tackles, Slater and Alt, who started the season, are out. So as we always talk about, complementary football is not just something that happens once the ball is kicked off. It's something that happens tomorrow. Like, it's your turn now. That's the weakest. What you feel is the weakest link? Their offensive line. That means our defensive line has to have a stellar game. It has to lead the way, taking the run away. And Justin Herbert, as you said, I think we have the speed at linebacker to recover on him. And I think he's caught a couple of people by surprise. So with his running this year, it's something that he kind of pulled out. And just like any team or any player, you keep thinking, oh, he's going to put it back in his pocket and go back to the pocket passer. But he has it out now, and he's okay because he knows that they don't have Omar. I think his name is Omar Hampton, Najee Harris. Both of those guys are on IR. They're on like their third running back. So I'm going to have to get 30, 40 yards. I'm going to have to, when it's 3rd and 3, I'm going to have to be that guy and salute to him for seeing that and challenging himself to do that, because we've seen him many years just as a football fan where it's like, so you're not just going to run and get that 3rd and 3. He would stand back there like he was Dan Marino. I'm like, you're a young athlete, go, fast. Marino didn't run because he was slow. You actually can run, go get the first down, but now he's doing that.
I won't stand for Dan Marino slander on this show. He wasn't slow. He just had a rocket arm, and he didn't need to run. It was a different era.
Okay,
it was a different era. It was a different era. Pittsburgh's finest, Dan Marino. Central Catholic.
Marino had 1 yard rushing in his career or something, right?
Well, one more yard than all of us in the NFL.
Yeah, where's Chris when us two Penn Staters are giving our love to the Pitt man and Dan Marino here, man?
I think for like 4 straight years in elementary school, I was the ghost of Dan Marino for Halloween. I had this ghost mask, and I just wore a Dan Marino jersey. I still have that Dan Marino jersey in my closet.
Mine's in my closet too. Every good Yinzer got a Dan Marino one in his closet.
Mine's a Dolphins jersey. It's not a Pitt jersey, so don't be alarmed.
I think I both actually, just in case. Got to be versatile.
It still kind of fits. I think I still can kind of fit into it. My mom always thought, like, get a bigger size, you'll grow into it. And gosh, mom is mostly right, typically.
Always.
All right.
Always
still
right.
To come as we reach halftime here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. We'll talk about the Steelers offensive line, the growth that they've made, the strides that they've made. Troy Fautanu, I mean, he's been fantastic. He really stood out last week against the Colts. We'll also talk about maybe some areas that concern us against this Chargers team. That's next right here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. But first, nobody likes paying rent. But if you must, you might as well get something for it. That's where BILT comes in. BILT is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through BILT, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. But BILT isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. For example, I love that with BILT, my rent finally works for me. I'm earning points every single month on something I already have to pay for. And whether I'm grabbing food at my favorite local restaurant or heading to the gym, I'm still earning rewards. BILT has made everyday life feel more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's JOINBILT.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure to use that link so they know we sent you. All right, welcome back. Second half of the Locked On Steelers Squad Show with Ben Bobick and Wayne Gandy. I'm Tyler Feldman. The Steelers getting set to take on the Los Angeles Chargers. You know, I know we're a little bit of ways from the San Diego Charger days, but it's still a little bit weird to say out loud, okay? Okay, it's still a little strange.
Well, I played against the San Diego Chargers. I played against Marino, but I'm not going to date myself. You know, y'all keep.
Well, let's get into that. What was it like playing? Well, I guess you wouldn't play against him. You were never filling in on the defensive line.
No.
I take that question back. It was a good question in my head until I realized halfway through what I was asking. All right, Steelers Chargers Sunday Night Football. Another Sunday Night Football game. This time taking on the Chargers. Wayne, I want to get your thoughts on this Steelers offensive line, because it seems like, and you said this early on in the season, they've got to mesh and gel, and that takes time. But it seems like that time that has been taken is finally paying off.
Yeah, it's a grueling process. It's one of those mindsets, and when I know you don't like to go back to preseason, but I do remember one of you guys. It might have even been Chris that where Broderick Jones was like, "No, we'll just do it." You know, in the first game, we'll get out on the edge. I'm like, well, that's not really how it happens. You know, especially when you're moving from right tackle to left, you're putting Troy Fatanu in there. Hopefully, Siamalu is, I know they have him as questionable, but he's a big, because without him, then you kind of can get away from that jumbo package with Spencer Anderson, unless you let someone else fill in. But in the game on Sunday, Spencer Anderson went to that left guard position. But you see aggressiveness in these last 3 games. You see them coming off the ball. And as we talked about, we definitely, Arthur Smith found that combination of which tight ends to put in those big bodies, and then just running the ball. You know, a lot of times you try to show it and then run away from it. I love that. No, we're showing you we got all these big bodies over here, and we're going to actually run it this way. You know, and that's something that I like in the aggressiveness of that. It shows a temperament, an attitude. It's the Steeler run game that I was part of, where, okay, you know, we're running the ball. Well, everybody else, you know, you got to stop the bus. You know what we're going to do. 30, 35 times, we're going to give it to him, and we're just going to keep leaning on you. And, you know, we don't care. If you call out the play, you got the call. Can you stop it? And that builds attitude. And that's what I like about the offensive line. And I think this defense sets up. The Chargers run like a 3-4 base. So basically, you're kind of going against what you've been going against in practice. They do have Khalil Mack that sometimes, you know, he's hit or miss in his older years, but he's effective. And can you contain a guy, a dynamic player like a Derwin James from that safety position? He is their Troy Polamalu type player. He's the guy that's counted on to come off the edge. He fills up the stat sheet, sacks, pressures, the big hits. So, but I think that, you know, anytime you can already have face and you can simulate in practice, you know, you already, that's what this offensive line is facing. So their challenge is just going out, to me, and establishing the run. And I know we didn't get the run yards last week that we're typically, because I'm always like, hey, we should be able to at least get 100 yards rushing. But anytime you're on the road, you can't just be in shotgun and dealing with the noise, which the noise might be something that the Chargers have to deal with. which is also a very dangerous situation, guys, because it upsets you as the home team when the other team takes over. So as much as it feels good for the Steelers, it's going to motivate the Chargers because you feel like the Charger fans betrayed. Y'all must have sold the tickets. You know, how did the Steeler fan get right behind the bench? You know, and that kind of thing. And you come out, so it's very motivating.
Yes, I do think, though, if you're the Chargers, you have to be used to that, right? Same thing in Vegas when we've seen Raiders, Steelers, and it's like, wow, does the entire city of Pittsburgh live in Las Vegas? It's just one of those games you circle where it's a well-traveled city. It's a well-traveled fan base. So I do see that a little bit, and I am now curious, Wayne, that you bring that up as a former player, that's possibly the energy that the Chargers players will be feeling Sunday night. Ben, offensive line, I mean, what stood out to you against the Colts, and how can they continue to replicate that, protect Aaron Rodgers, increase the run game, improve the run game? I feel like all that is on the table now after what happened last week.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Troy Fautanu, man. He's really coming along. I love that. I'd like him a lot more after wins, obviously, but especially, you know, I love getting on social media and those guys that break down they get the all 22 up there and they break down the different blocks and whatnot. And I saw there were a few from Fautanu that showed out there where they swung him around and it was actually one of the better runs of the day that Jaylen Warren had. And it was just great to see him. It was like almost like a magnet, him swinging around from the right side and then boom, right on his guy and blasting him. And it was like, that's something to see there. That's a guy that looks like he's playing with more confidence now. He's starting to settle in because he really didn't play at all last year. So it's almost like a rookie season and like 2.0 for him, if you will. And he is everything that the Steelers drafted and hopefully can only continue to get better. So it's great to see him come along. And now you guys mentioned Isaac Seumalo, man. I think he's been coming along as well. It'd be great to hopefully have him healthy, but it's also a good thing knowing, you know, I know we mentioned it. We want to, obviously you want him in the game. You don't want to see anybody hurt, but you know, it's a good thing to knowing that you have a guy like Spencer Anderson who's seen the field plenty this year that could fill that spot, you know, hopefully seamlessly, if you will, or at least just have that familiarity with the offensive line that it doesn't mess with the mojo too much. Hey, he's out there in those jumbo packages. He's plenty of playing time on the field, so it's not a guy where you're inserting in there that hasn't seen the field a lot. This is a guy that's been playing a lot of football this year for this team. So that's a good thing. But I don't know. I think this Sunday could be that game, that monster game for Jaylen Warren. I think both in the pass game and in the run game. I think they get him going against this Chargers team. He finally found the end zone we were all. I think all of us were astonished at how long it's been since he scored a last touchdown on Sunday. You get that monkey off your back, and he's been running hard. I think this could be a really big game for him. Just running downhill, getting the ball out of the backfield in those swing passes and whatnot, because you know that's the one thing about this offensive line. They're giving Aaron Rodgers just enough time, and because he doesn't need that. We always said that from the jump. He doesn't need that much time, and you got him for a reason, because he knows where he needs to go with the football. He's finding those matchups. Anytime he sees DK Metcalf one-on-one, he's getting the ball quick to DK Metcalf, even if it's a designed run and he's going to call out of it. I mean, it's stuff like that where he knows and can recognize certain things that other quarterbacks don't. And I think just getting the ball in 30's hands on Sunday could be a good thing in the run and pass game. It feels like this could be Jaylen Warren's game on Sunday. And tell you what, if it is, then that's great for the offense, because everybody benefits from it. Because if you get one guy going, then the bunch will benefit.
Jaylen Warren finding the end zone on the ground for the first two times in that win over the Colts. It was his first rushing touchdown since week 12 of last season, which is just insane to think about. That's where they've been at in that running game. DK Metcalf last week in that win, a little quiet. I expect him to have a big game against the Chargers. But that being said, Wayne, when you look at this Chargers matchup against the Steelers, a road contest across the country, what worries you in this game if you're a Pittsburgh fan?
Just the explosiveness of the passing game of the Chargers. The names aren't as big as the Bengals' two receivers, but the effectiveness is there as well. They know what they are. They have a veteran quarterback who drinks a lot of beer, as you said, Tyler. that really feels like they've kind of put a team together offensively. They went and brought Keenan Allen back to the fold, and he's throwing the ball around. They're an aerial team. That's what they go in the game to do, and they take their opportunities on defense. As I said, they play a little aggressiveness. They blitz a lot, but really it's just about stopping the run first and foremost with that front seven. And can Jalen Ramsey really, I think he'll get a little more testing this week at that safety position, if that's where they still have him. I don't know the game plan, but that's something that even the Chargers, they don't know where he might line up this week, which is a good thing for them. But, maybe he's going to hold that free safety spot down again another Sunday.
Justin Herbert has been the leading rusher for the Chargers in 4 of their 9 games this season. 2 of those 4 games have been Chargers losses. So just something to keep in mind if you can stop the run. I do think it's scary to think about that passing attack with Justin Herbert and the Steelers secondary. They did play pretty well in that Colts win, much better than they had been. But Ben, what concerns you about this matchup between the Steelers and Chargers, if you're a Pittsburgh fan?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Wayne touched on it when it comes to the explosiveness of the offense, but it's third downs. The Steelers have struggled to get off the field on third downs this season, and that goes for third downs of any third and long, in particular, a good bit. And obviously, those moments you have to get off the field on third down, and then you look at the stats, man. Who's the best third down offense in the NFL? The Los Angeles Chargers, man. They're completing. They're 49.2%. They're complete. That's how good their third down efficiency is, and that's just right there for you. And because they're a team with a quarterback like Justin Herbert, where 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, they don't really blink at that because you have a guy like Justin Herbert who can make plays with his legs or get out of the pocket and play breaks down and he can make it happen. And you have that explosiveness on offense. But I mean, you just look at the numbers. I mean, it doesn't matter how they're doing it; they're doing it. And the Steelers have struggled on third down. It bit them against Green Bay. That was a big proponent there. I mean, I think about some of those third downs that went. The one in particular I think of is that one with Wayne's boy Tucker Kraft. Just when he went up and caught that ball on Deshaun Elliott, that changed the whole game, it felt like. And obviously it changed the season for Deshaun Elliott because he got hurt on that play. I just think about stuff like that was 3rd and 11, if I recall correctly. So that's 3rd and long. That play was donezo. I mean, Alex Highsmith and DJ Watt pretty much got home and they were able to make a play out of it. I mean, stuff like that has been going against the Steelers. Even sometimes when they haven't defended well, it's not going well. And then you play a team like the Chargers who are completing nearly 50% of their third downs. That's got to be a point of emphasis. Get off the field on third down, because if they do, then you're feeling pretty decent about it then, because then you're forcing them into punch. You're forcing them out of rhythm, and that's their game. That's a big proponent of their offense, but that's definitely the biggest thing that stands out to me or scares me if you're a Steelers fan, and that's getting off the field. Third down, we're just going to call them money downs. I scream at the TV every single time it's a third down. Money down here, money down, because that's what it comes down to. And it's going to be big money downs on Sunday against a team that converts on third down at a higher percentage than anybody else in the NFL.
Hopefully the Steelers are cashing in on that money against the Chargers Sunday night. Hey, 2 quick notes. Tucker Kraft unfortunately tore his ACL in that loss to the Panthers last week. So Steelers got a little taste of Kraft, and unfortunately for the Steelers, maybe they would have liked to have faced Green Bay later in the season. Not the case. You can't make the schedule. We don't make the schedule. You can't play those kind of games. Also, if you're listening and you're like, man, Justin Herbert, Wayne said Justin Herbert drinks a lot of beer, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that I didn't know he was all about that life. Justin Herbert is dating Madison Beer. Okay. That was the joke, but I do want to clarify for anyone listening or watching that is not aware of that off the field connection between the star quarterback and a pop star. So just wanted to clarify.
Google Madison Beer on your own time if you're listening.
Yeah, that's not on this time. Do it after the show or do it during the show if you're watching on multiple screens. All right, still to come here. Final quarter is up next on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. We're going to be talking more about this Chargers-Steelers matchup on Sunday Night Football. Additionally, our way too early predictions, which we just love to shelve out. No commercial. We'll be right back here in just a bit. All right, just like that. Tyler Feldman. He's Wayne Gandy. He's Benjamin Bobick, or Ben Bobick for short. I went full name.
Yeah, it's all good.
Just a little proper here to wrap up this final quarter of this Wednesday night preview edition of the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. So glad you're with us. Christopher Carter couldn't be with us here tonight. Just a reminder, you can check out his daily podcast on the Locked On Steelers podcast channel Monday through Friday. The episodes this week have been great with great guests, and so make sure you're checking that out as well. We love supporting our teammates here on Locked On, especially when it's really insightful stuff. Chris really puts a lot of work into covering the Steelers team. I know some of you get on him for being a Mike Tomlin truther or being too positive, but you know what? Sometimes it's okay to be positive, okay? It's sometimes okay to be negative, but you got to have a balance, and that's what we do here on the Locked On Steelers podcast channel. All right, Steelers and the Chargers, Sunday Night Football. Looking at the line, Chargers favored by 3.5, over under 44.5. We'll get to our predictions in just a bit. Obviously, we've talked about it already. Got to stop Justin Herbert. The running game is an issue for the Chargers right now. They haven't really figured that out. But what other areas of this game do you guys see, and either one of you can take this off the top, as a key factor in how the Steelers win this football game?
Well, I think DK Metcalf has to make some of those big plays that he makes down the field. I think this is a great game that sets up for him, where Aaron just tries him. Even in those situations, max protect. We're going to just heave it down the field and then try to get that one-on-one matchup against these corners of the Chargers. The Chargers typically, they're a smallish defense. When you look at them, they rely on speed from their linebacker and safety positions. But I believe DK is going to have some of them big chunk yards to back this defense up. I think they're going to play the line and be aggressive, trying to take our run game and force us to throw the ball to him. And he's going to have to make some big plays. When you flip over to the defense, as I said, it's about the front seven being able to manage the run game and stop it without having to run blitz or commit a safety, and then just picking up and using that momentum that you just showed on Sunday, playing as a unit. They gave up 6 sacks to the Titans last Sunday. So you got to take advantage. We talked about the 2 tackles. They got a new guy in, but you got to see and test him. Alex Highsmith still has to bring that same pressure and start fast. I think this is just one of those games where you need to start fast. It can't be come back on the Chargers. I think you got to be one of those always in play. And hopefully, even with Coach Tomlin, I know he likes to play it close to the vest, but to me, when you're on that very edge, let's see if maybe we can score. I know he likes to kick the field goal and take the 3 points. But every once in a while, you do have that feel like, hey, you got to trust. You got some all-pros and a Hall of Famer. Let's test, and especially in that first half, let's see if we can make some of these 7 instead of doing the field goal, because I don't really feel like you can beat the Chargers kicking field goals.
I hear you. If I'm Mike Tomlin, boy, is it tough to say I'm not going to throw Chris Boswell out there, because that guy's basically automatic. It's certainly depending on the situation, but that dude's unbelievable. I think he needs to be talked about a lot more based on what he's accomplished in his NFL career. Unfortunately, he hasn't been on those upper echelon teams with the Steelers, so there haven't been those deep playoff conversations. But man, is he talented? Hey, DK Metcalf, the first guy you mentioned, Wayne, season low, 2 catches last week, just for 6 yards. That was it. So I do, like I said earlier in this show, I do expect him to explode for a much bigger game. Cozy environment for Aaron Rodgers. Don't really have to worry about the Mother Nature involvement in this football game. So I feel like that bodes well as well. Ben, who else or what else do you think needs to happen in this football game for the Steelers to come away with their 2nd straight win?
Yeah, I think you stay around some guys that have been trending in the right direction. Calvin Austin had himself a decent little game on Sunday and a couple big catches. And then if you rewind the clock to last year's game against the Chargers, it was really almost felt like one of his coming out party. I mean, he had 4 catches for 95 yards, and he had that touchdown over the middle there that really put the game away in the fourth quarter against LA. So maybe you get him going again. He had a couple nice catches again on Sunday against the Colts. He's had a couple good games this season, but you want to see him continue to trend in the right direction. And I think he certainly can against a team that he played pretty well against last year. I mean, he was the leading receiver against the Chargers last year, had a touchdown. So and it would certainly put a lot of those doubters that those Steelers fans, not that they care about this by any means, but it would silence some doubters that said, why didn't you go and get a receiver in the trade deadline? Calvin Austin, I'm sure, is hearing that. I'm sure he's seen a little bit of that rat poison, if you will. Shout out Nick Saban. That it's like, yeah, why do they need to get another receiver? They got me. I'm here. I'm ready to go. So he might use that as motivation. You hope that he does, but I'd love to see him continue to trend upward. And Darnell Washington as well, man. He had 4 catches for 43 yards last week. He is becoming one of Aaron Rodgers' favorite targets, certainly in the red zone. He is, or in the goal line, rather, in red zone, both, But and certainly at the goal line, Aaron Rodgers not afraid to go to their Shaq play, if you will. I know they like to call it that. So it's great to see that continue to trend upward because he is just an athletic freak, man, and all assets of it. So those two continue to trend upward. I'd like to see them have some solid games. But there's one thing that I like to point out too. I think the Steelers could certainly take advantage of because they love showing the special teams coordinator chewing his gum every single week, Danny Smith, and that special teams. You look at the Chargers; they're giving up a lot of yards in the punt return and in the kicking return game. They just gave up a punt return for a touchdown on Sunday against the Titans. Deshaun Williams has really come on and carved himself out a role here as a kick returner for the Steelers. He seems close to maybe busting a big one. And I'm not saying he has to take one back for a score, but that's almost as good as a turnover to say he returns one deep into Chargers territory, gives Aaron Rodgers and that offense a short field. We saw what they could do with short fields. That could be a big game changer and a big boost for this Steelers team on Sunday against a team that's struggling a bit in the special teams game. Like I said, they just gave up a punt return for a score. And so those are the 3 phases of football you could take advantage of. And in games like this, they could be the difference maker against a good team.
Love that point, Ben. Really, I can't wait for that to happen, and we're going to circle back to you saying that. Hey, what did I say? I called it. I know all. I'm Ben Bobick. That's just what I do. All right, let's get into the prediction zone of this ball game. Chargers favored by 3.5. Again, if you're listening, you're watching. Hey, these are predictions. We like to have fun with these. All right, this is not a. Look, it's just meant to be fun, okay? Wayne, where do you see this game playing out?
I think it's going to be a tight victory for the Steelers. I'm going to take the Steelers on the road. I believe that what we saw on Sunday is something they're eager to solidify and show that they can back that up. I think that taking on this team is a function of what they've seen here over the last 3 weeks. So the defense has something they're already in groove with. The offense facing a 3-4 defense, get the run game, as you said, with Gamewell and Warren. I think that'll be back. That'll be a huge contributor. And I see 26-24. Boswell kicks the game winner to make it 26-24.
Okay. So they wouldn't go. You wouldn't want Mike Tomlin to go for it in that situation? Down.
No. It's 12 seconds left on the clock. You got to kick the field goal for the win.
Yeah, I know. I just was going back. I didn't know time was a factor in what you were saying earlier. So I appreciate that clarification.
Well, remember I said in the first half, he sometimes when he's on that fringe, he I know Boswell, and that's sometimes where he puts his head and he rests on that. He has such a good kicker, but every once in a while I like to let him. It sets a tempo for your team sometimes. It's 4th and 4. You're right there on that cusp of being out of field goal range, and just dial up and in that first half and take that gamble.
I only heard half of what Wayne said. I promise I hear more than half of what he says during the show twice a week. Okay, Ben, how do you see things shaking out here Sunday night?
I think it's going to be a great football game, man. This is going to be a great Sunday night environment between two of the better squads in the AFC, two teams that are in similar boats when it comes to, where they are in the pecking order, at least as of now in the AFC. The Chargers are there in the West in a division that's pretty much run by the Chiefs, and obviously the Broncos are having a good season in their own right. You think about the Steelers, the Ravens have been rolling the roost in the North. They've been hurt a bit this year, but they're trending in that right direction. Two teams that are looking to prove themselves. So it's makes for a great primetime environment. I think it's going to be a great football game in that sense. I think both teams do a lot well. And I think it's one of those games for the Steelers where they struggle a bit when they go out west. And I think one of the last times they were out in LA, it was at least against the Chargers in particular. It was a tough one in prime time. So I do think it's going to be close. I think both offenses are going to do a lot right. It might frustrate you a little bit when it comes to the defense and the progress that they made. But when you're playing a team like the Chargers and Justin Herbert, that's one of the upper echelon of quarterbacks and offenses in the league. So you take it for what it's worth. It's not like 42-year-old Joe Flacco dicing you up on Thursday Night Football and then Chase Brown on all over them that makes you want to bang your head against the wall as a Steelers fan. But this is a little bit different. You know what you're getting into here against the LA Chargers. The Steelers are going to have to turn them over. We saw that we said that all last week. They have to create turnovers. They did against the Colts, and it resulted in a pretty convincing win. So I think it's going to be close down the stretch. I just think the Chargers make enough plays there down the stretch to get it done. I have LA winning this one 33-31. But on the back half of it, though, I think you don't feel as bad as a Steelers fan coming out of this loss. It's one of those ones where it's like, hey, that could have went. There was a lot more good than bad. There's which is tough to say in a 33-31 loss, but I think there's a lot more good than bad. I think you feel okay about it, and then you look at the schedule ahead, and you take what you learned from this game and that win in the Colts, and you drives into this other game stretch you have coming up. But I have the Chargers pulling this one out 33-31. And I would like to just to comment on that when it comes to my predictions. I am on a heater. I have predicted 3 in a row. The Bungles win, the Packers win, and almost the score correctly last week. I had the Steelers 26-20. The final was 27-20. So I'm red hot right now. I'd love for that streak to be broken. So the Chargers win 33-31.
Ben, you're so hot. I'm glad we're in different rooms right now. I'd have to take my jacket off, start sweating. Maybe we got to start keeping track of things on the show because we give the predictions every week. Ben's probably in first place then if he's on such a heater. I'm taking the Steelers to win this football game. Wait for it. 41-36. I think this is going to be an absolute shootout. Aaron Rodgers has his best game of the season. DK Metcalf has 2 receiving touchdowns. Calvin Austin has 1. It's less of the tight ends making the big splash plays and more of the receivers going to war here in Los Angeles. I think it's back and forth. And yeah, the Steelers coming away with the crazy 41-36 win on the road. And I've got to say, yeah, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm all about what happened last week. You carry that momentum into a tough road game on national television on NBC with Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth on the call. Yeah, give me the Steelers by 5 on the road. Obviously, take the over if you're following my scoring schedule. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun game. I really do. And unfortunately, the defense is going to take a step back. But the Steelers, with that win, will take a step forward. That's how I see things playing out. Any final thoughts, gentlemen, on this Wednesday night show?
Well, if you guys are predicting the score to be that high, the defense had to score. The Steelers defense would have to score. To get to 41, it would definitely have to be a score by the defense.
Okay, maybe they do score on defense.
Okay.
Maybe that special teams touchdown I was talking about.
Yeah.
What a tab in that.
There we go. I cannot wait for that to happen, Ben. I am praying for that to happen now so that you can say that your heater is what's ever above a heater. I'm not sure. Figure that out for Sunday's show.
We might find out.
All right, gentlemen, this was fun as always. A reminder, you can listen to the audio of tonight's show on the Locked On Steelers podcast channel, wherever and however you podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe. That helps us out. That'll do it, though, for this Wednesday night Los Angeles Chargers preview edition of the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. For Wayne Gandy and Ben Bobick, I'm Tyler Feldman saying good night, and here we go. We'll see you late Sunday night right after the game.